For Learning Target 235, we are interpreting the characteristics of a real-world scenario in a graph. And so you're going to be asked these 4 questions, the independent and dependent variables, and then the slope and y-intercept meaning. And so the independent and dependent variables, you can think about it how you think about it in bio class, although some of our situations won't match perfectly because they're not experiments. They're just kind of tracking information. So like this one is talking about water in a reservoir, and we have time on the x-axis and water on the y. So they're tracking the water and it's going down. And so our independent variable is one that's causing the other to change. So it is affecting the change, or as it happens, the other thing is changing. And so I kind of like to word them both ways and see what makes sense. So does it make sense that as hours pass, the water goes down? Or does it make sense that as the water goes down, that makes hours pass? Hopefully you realize that the water going down cannot make time go any faster. So the independent variable, the one that is causing the change to happen, is time. And our independent variable is always on the x, so you could also use that. Dependent variable then will be the water. And now we can interpret our slope and our y-intercept. So the first thing we need to do is actually calculate the slope. You can use the slope formula because they gave you 2 points, or you can count rise and run. Just be very careful with your scale. So this is not counting by 1. So even though I go down 2 boxes, I really went down 1,000. And even though I go over 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes, I really went over 40. So my rise over my run is negative 1,000 over 40, which we can simplify. If they both end in zeros, you can cross a 0 off. So negative 100 over 4, which is negative 25. You can also type that in your calculator and figure that out as well. So our slope meaning, we have negative 25 over 1. It's nice to have the rise and the run still so that we can be really clear. And I like to label my slope and then write the sentence. So the negative 25 is the rise, which stands for the water. So this is the water height. And the 1 is the run, which stands for the time in hours. And so the water in the reservoir is dropping. So I can say that the slope means that the water in the reservoir, wow, that is a hard word to spell. The water in the reservoir drops 25, and then I want to see what the unit they're using is. So 25,000 feet cubed every 1 hour. You could also say every hour it drops by 25,000 feet, or the water is decreasing by 25,000 feet every 1 hour. You could also not simplify it. You could say every 40 hours it drops by 1,000 feet, or every 4 hours it drops by 100. Those all mean the same thing, so whatever version you use is fine, as long as you have both the feet unit and the time unit in there in your sentence. The y-intercept meaning, so we first want to find that out of context, like what is the actual y-intercept? So where does this cross the y-axis? And it's up here, which is not labeled. But if I look, I can see I'm counting by 500s, so this is 3,500. This means the start. The y-intercept is always the starting point. Where does this start? So we can say at the start, the reservoir had 3,500,000 feet cubed. Or you can say the height of the water was this, or anything like that. So anything that signifies that that is the starting point for this water.